Hello, everyone, and welcome. What are the impurities or the enemies of mind? There are three rare gifts in life. 1. Birth as a human being. 2. Desire for liberation or moksha. And 3. Access to a qualified teacher. Mind, called antahkarana or the internal instrument in Sanskrit, has three impurities called malam. The impurities are 1. Inner enemies called shadvargas in Sanskrit, caused by likes and dislikes, raga dveshas. 2. Distraction, scattering mind, mental restlessness, called vikshepa in Sanskrit, and or lack of concentration, non-focusing mind. And 3. Ignorance, called avidya or ajnana in Sanskrit. The inner enemies of the mind are removed by karma yoga. Vikshepa, lack of concentration, is removed by raja yoga or meditation. And the ignorance is removed by jnana yoga or self-inquiry or atma vichara. Now, let us concentrate on the first impurity, the inner enemies of the mind. The inner enemies of mind, also called Arishadvargas or and Shadripu in Sanskrit, are sixfold: lust, anger, attachment or greed, delusion or lack of discrimination or dual vision or dualism, and arrogance or pride and jealousy. In Sanskrit, they are known as kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. The first three, lust, which is a desire for sense objects without dharma or discrimination, and anger, called krodha, and attachment or greediness or obsession, are known as three gates of hell from Bhagavad Gita. If you can control the first three, you can control the remaining three. What is the cause? Again, likes and dislikes, raga dveshas. Whenever there is an egoistic or binding desire or lust, kama, there is the potential for anger or krodha. Anger arises whenever there is an obstruction to the fulfillment of passion. Anger is an obstructed desire. When our desire gets fulfilled, however, it creates a different problem. We want more. There is always inner dissatisfaction and we become attached to the objects of our desire, which is obsession. This is called attachment or greed or lobha or lobe. Attachment comes only where we expect a return. It is interesting to note that the root word for love is lobe. Common form of love is attachment. Thus, lust gives rise to either anger or greed. Anger is reactive, not projective. Once the obstruction is removed, anger disappears. Attachment is projective. Attachment is a stronger force than anger. Attachment makes you blind. Anger makes you crazy. Attachment or greed is a different state of mind with a definite qualitative change. Anger is not a qualitative change, it is simply a quantitative change. Kama and krodha, or desire and anger, are natural. Greed is not. Greed ruins a person because there is no end to greed. Greed is compared to an ocean. The root Sanskrit word for greed is gid, means a vulture. However, anger suppressed can lead to sadness and depression, etc. Sadness is a negative way of being angry, the feminine way of being angry. Whenever the mind is under the spell of attachment or greed, it cannot think clearly, and that leads to lack of discrimination or loss of proper thinking. This lack of discrimination or lack of buddhi is known as delusion, moha, dual vision, dualism. Delusion produces imbalance in the three centers of the mind: buddhi, manas, and ego. Imbalance can either lead to internal splitting of the ego or the external inflating or enlargement of the ego. A person under continual and deeper effect of delusion and who has lost the ability to discriminate is, for all practical purposes, mad or intoxicated with arrogance or pride, called mada in Sanskrit. Internally, this can cause schizophrenia, depression, or guilt. Arrogance is an enlarged or bloated mineness, or enlarged ahamkara or mada. Whenever there is pride, there is immediately going to be jealousy. A proud person seeks security in his or her own achievements. When that person finds a more successful person, his or her own inadequacy becomes manifest and gives rise to jealousy, called matsarya. Jealousy arises because of comparison. Jealousy is very subtle. Jealousy is a fear-driven emotion, making one willing for the others to have less. It is an emotion called mineness, mamakara, or dualism, often based in bitterness. It basically proceeds from anger and leads to anger, and it kills. Jealousy can kill. Anyone who has been in a jealous triangle knows it. A common man lives by enlarged ego or pride or mada, and a woman by jealousy. Jealousy is a passive form of enlarged ego, and enlarged ego is the active form of jealousy. Jealousy is a mixture of the 5 first qualities. Jealousy or comparison robs your intelligence. There is no comparison or competition in nature. A tiny ant is as happy and blissful as an elephant. So, do not compare. Everyone is unique and no one is comparable. Comparison is a disease. Drop comparison and you will drop jealousy. Let A grow in its own way and let B grow in its own way. The six propensities of mind or enemies of mind are considered to be our inner enemies caused by likes and dislikes, raga dveshas. Usually, our minds are under their control. An enlightened being, a sage or a jnani, upon self-realization through the control of the inner enemies and then jnana yoga, is in the state of moksha. Moksha means moha plus ksha, means the reduction or removal of delusion, moha, which means he is free of moha, delusion or dualism, and subsequently free of mada, free of arrogance, and free of matsarya, means free of jealousy. He still lives with kama or desire, but these are non-binding desires only, nishkama karmas. If there are absolutely no desires, his body would have to disintegrate or die. He will still get angry because it's part of natural or cellular arising. But he will not project the anger any further. His body, genes cannot be altered. Only his mental response or mental entanglement can be altered upon realization. He may still have non-binding attachments or impersonal attachments, which are for the service or good of the mankind. Although he is not really concerned about doing such acts, they are only by the way, because he will not still sit idly. He will do his duty. It is simply natural for him to do such good acts for the benefit of the mankind. In other words, desire or kama and anger or krodha and greed or lobha are under sage's control and automatically loses delusion or moha, arrogance or mada, and jealousy or matsarya. The first three impurities are neutralized in a sage. Loss of moha, mada, and matsarya is the result of the loss of personal doership in his ego or ahamkara. He loses the status of the observer subject of an independent existence and simply becomes the observer object, with the understanding that the only subject with independent existence is God. Therefore, his ego or ahamkara with impersonal doership must stay with him until he leaves in this body, so he can perform his activities as an ego, as an observer object, observing an observed object. He is simply a sakshi, a witness. A sage's mind is called a working or spontaneous mind, which is in the now, not a thinking mind which is either in the past or in the future, with knowledge or jnana, and then losing personal doership. A sage does not say, I am this body. He says, this body is me, but I am not this body. So, he still has an apparent relationship with his body, eyes and ego, eyes and ahamkara, until the very end of his gross body's life. When someone calls a sage by his name, he responds. Thank you.